For instance, all my exes are experts. Na inhale, niki exhale na expand. X-Men, shule modeli ni expel, but say na expect to excel to an extent siezi ku explain. Wanangoja trailer niko kwa Nissan, mini X-Trail. Boy wa ghetto but kila kitu nadunga mazeni X-Pay. Megeuza madam currency, now wa exchange. Buzz kibao lakini saistaki ku extend.
Welcome back to the Hip Hop African Podcast. Today we are honored to have as a guest Kenyan hip hop artist, activist, and actor Octopizzo, who is originally from Nairobi, really from the notorious Kibera slums, which is one of the largest slums in the world. And he is probably one of the more prolific, conscious, and talented MCs out of East Africa. So when we're looking at conscious artists out of East Africa, he's probably like on the top 3 artists that one would mention. He's been around for a while. His first mixtape, The Come Up Volume 1, came out in 2008. Then he released the mixtape El Classico in 2014. His first album, Chocolate City, was also 2014. He released the album LDPC in 2015, Refugeenius in 2016, next year in 2018. And his music basically addresses a lot of social issues, including poverty, ethnic tensions, corruption, even the legalization of marijuana, which I think is all of these things, especially the corruption and ethnic violence and poverty, are something that a lot of conscious artists address. But what I think is so interesting is that he also addresses, one of the big things was the issue of refugees. And so for those who don't know, Kenya is home to a lot of refugees from surrounding conflicts, including people fleeing violence in the Congo, Sudan, Somalia. And so it's a huge issue. Even so, you don't have a lot of artists that address it. And I guess, part of it is, people tend to not address things that they feel that they don't personally have to address, but I think him choosing to is really important. And on the album Refugeenius, he collaborated with several refugees from Kakuma and Dadaab refugee camps in Kenya, which was great. And he's also one of the East African hip hop artists that my students tend to reference the most. So they have to kind of go and do research on hip hop artists that are talking about specific topics. And Octopizzo is one of the artists that they reference the most, and they have written, a lot of them have written essays on his work, connecting with songs like Presidential, New Africa, Last Shot. So these are songs that really kind of resonated with them. And even though he raps mostly in Swahili, there's some of the songs you have the English subtitles. And then some of my students are East African, so they don't need subtitles. He's also the founder of the youth group Y.G.B, Young, Gifted, and Black, which is a collective of MCs, poets, artists. And he founded his nonprofit Octopizzo Foundation in 2015, which uses culture and sports to reach the youth. Now, one of the things I really am excited about is, I was excited prior to, I think I've been really wanting to sit down with you for a while, but one of the things that really had me really super excited is recently you joined forces with other activists to address police brutality in Kenya. And I think it's not even really a recent thing. I just think that the connection between police brutality in Kenya and the United States kind of has recently come together. So this has been an ongoing issue. So you've drawn parallels between police violence in Kenya and the US. And this week you were involved in a protest in front of the US Embassy in Nairobi, holding up a sign of people killed and injured by the police. And again, for those who don't know, the police in Nairobi have a reputation for brutality, especially against street kids and people living in the slums. If you've ever been to Nairobi and walked around Nairobi, you've seen the street kids in Nairobi. Like I've unfortunately, two times I've been in Nairobi, I was robbed by those street kids. So I'm familiar with the street kids in Nairobi. They are quick, like literally snatched and gone. And when one of them went through an alley, I'm like, okay, you got it. I'm not following the alley. But the police handling of the street kids has been very problematic. And then more recently, there were reports of dozens of deaths at the hands of the police who were supposedly trying to enforce a curfew that was put in place to kind of slow the spread of corona. So that's quite a bit of an introduction. So I want to start off with kind of what's happening in Kenya, and can you kind of talk a little bit about the relationship between the police and the people in Kenya, and kind of what has kind of caused you to speak out against the
So yeah, thanks for the intro. There's a lot is going on now, but mostly it's just like, I would say is more hunger related, like from COVID and like just paranoia. And people, I guess many people are not used to being introverts and staying home. So people are getting like depression is starting to come in, you can tell from people's posts and stuff. And yeah, I guess that's where we are. Police are shooting people. So like already like 2 or 3 people have been shot. Like there've been more deaths from police than corona in Kenya. That's like how messed up. Yeah, and so yeah, the other day I was hanging out with my American friend who's white, and she was like, I wish I was home. I would have like stand with the people, and I was like, this is your home now. So there's nothing like you wish you were home. You've been living here for over 5, 6 years. What you're gonna do is that you're gonna call your friends who are American who are here, and they can call their friends, and we're gonna go to the embassy and do whatever you wanted to do in the States. So yeah, she was like hesitant at the beginning, but then like I keep pushing her, and she got it. She invited some of his friends, and we went. It was a peaceful. We had a letter. We sent it to the ambassador, of what we think and how we think the police brutality is connected, because also the Kenyan military actually is funded by the US, and until today, our army is still being trained by the British, just like the colonial era. So like, it's like those white police in America training Kenyan police. It's the same system. So you're trained how to kill your other. It's the same system, because even in America, they have black police, and rarely do you hear them speak, because even they're trained the same thing. So I don't believe. I have like an uncle who is a cop, but I'm not into this like good cop, bad cop. It's like you just become either one cop or you're just a bad cop, because there's no good cop, bad cop. Like once you're a cop, it's like it comes with a bar. Unless you're sitting in the office, if you're in the streets, it comes with the bar. And so that connection, and I studied in the States too for some time, in Philly, and I've faced like, I think, racism like 3 times. So I also had an experience about it. And I have a son who's in America, and he doesn't grow here. And every day, like, pick out, like, what if they shoot him? Like, and I can't do shit. So I've been even trying to make friends with like American black men who I can send like, yo, go check my son. You know the culture better there and stuff. And so this was, for me, was very personal, because the police brutality, like I've been in these streets like almost 20 times since 2007, when we had the first post-election violence and many people were killed. I was in the streets again when almost 28 people were shot again after the elections, and nothing ever happens. Nothing ever happens. And most of the time, people from Kibera are the only ones who go to the street. So we also feel like the middle class, because here is not about now racism, here is about classism. People in the middle and upper class, they don't talk, they don't come out. They're like, that's not our problem, we don't get shot. Those guys are just thieves, And now that many people have been home, and now everybody's home and nobody's out, and they're seeing, yet they're still just talking. They just hashtag. That's what I don't like. They just hashtag, you go on Twitter, it trends, and then after 2 days, they are tagging another crazy shit. And that story is just gone like that. But when you tell people, let's go to the street and whatever, nobody comes. So it's just frustrating.
That you said in terms of the bringing in the economic part, because I think that a lot of people even here just see it as race, and so then they don't understand one, they don't understand that Black cops are part of the same system, that yes, race is a part of it, but it is also, you know, there is also a big class element to it, that, you know, being middle class or whatever isn't going to save you necessarily, but the police are very clear about what they do in certain neighborhoods, and they feel like they have the ability. They're not going to go into the wealthy neighborhoods and behave a certain way. So they definitely, and you know, so that class piece is, I think, really, really, really connects Kenya and the United States. And then also what you were talking about in terms of the training of the police in Kenya.
Yeah, training. It's a white training system, you know, like. So it goes deeper, I feel like, and I've also talked to police here who are, you know, like young people, or like some that I know, because like I still treat them like our people, because when they don't wear that uniform, you won't know. You won't know if they're policemen. And they are traumatized like crazy. Like the training they go through is there. I don't think like everybody liked it. So it kind of make you to turn you to somebody else, you know, because when you talk to them, if you knew them before they were police and then after the training, it's just they're two different people. It's like they were tortured or something. And so when they go out here, they try to prove something too, you know. It's like they came from war and then given a job when they still have people, you know.
Now, do you feel like now what's happening in the States is also helping with, you know, helping to get people to speak out about what's happening in Kenya? Do you think that that's, that people are kind of like in wanting to get more involved?
I would say maybe it has helped to like trigger the middle and upper class of Kenyans to speak. Like and just tweet actually. Like I don't feel like they've done enough. It's just for the first time they have actually even tweeted about like people that they don't even know, because all the people who were shot are in the ghettos. They shot a homeless person, 60 years old, homeless. Like he was just sleeping. And they confused him with like a drunk person who was not, should be in after a curfew, and they just shot him. They shot a 13-year-old kid in a balcony, you know? So it's like, it's things like you're wondering, like, what is the world ending, or like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
Now, what is happening with the corona situation there? Is there still a curfew in place?
Yeah, we still have a curfew every day from 7 p.m.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Every day. So the president will talk on Saturday to tell us if the curfew will still continue. But, you know, the corona thing is just like, it depends with where you're coming from again, which neighborhood. Like, you're coming from Kibera, nobody cares about corona. And that's like their last worry.
Yeah.
You know, people care about what they're going to eat, because they don't do savings. They work from hand to mouth. So people who do business now have been messed the most, because everybody do small businesses and they start in the evening when people buy groceries, food, and now you can't do that. Now it's after 7, nobody should be out. And so many people are scared of they can't pay rent and they can't eat, and their kids are home now because all schools are closed too. So that is the more frustration of like when you come from Kibera side, when the middle and upper, I don't know, for the first time they're complaining because the thing now is their jobs, they're losing jobs. People, they've realized they can't work from home, and people, it's just a different timing, like, to see what is going on. It's like the people have been leveled at some level.
Yeah. One of the things I also was looking at online is that, you know, you were talking about your friend and protesting. You had recently sent a tweet out basically kind of talking about the importance of Black Lives Matter and saying to your white friends that if they were not, basically they were not down with this issue or with this cause, basically that they need to not. And so have you had any kind of pushback from anybody about that, or everybody just kind of been like, okay with it?
I think like I haven't, which I didn't expect to have actually, because if I did, then that means I've been friends. And yes, there were that was still, they still, it's difficult for them to have that conversation, because even every white person in Kenya is privileged. You can't come here if you're a white poor white. So every white person in Kenya is super privileged. Like back at home, they're rich or something, and they have gotten some stuff their way, And so it's still a conversation. Is for the first time, like we are actually having those conversations even here, and like this and this has happened because of this and because you're white, or because of that and that. And people think racism is just about like, I hate black people, but now people are digging it deep, like it's not about hate, like you could love. Like I've seen somebody who's like was racist and said like, oh, I have a black kid, I'm not racist because they're a mixed kid. Or like my boyfriend is black, not racist. And it's like the boyfriend is black on a statistical level. It's not like actually dating. It's just like, I get a black person so that I don't look racist. But they're subconsciously racist. I've dated white women who didn't know if they were racist, but then I've met them and their families members were racist. And I will tell them like, yo, this person is racist. And it will not register. Like, I know she's not racist, but it will not register to her, because it's like, it's been part of like, it's like a lifestyle that, no, they're not. So they will be in denial, because they don't understand, like, actually, this is subconscious racism that you don't even realize. And I think many people have it until they have those conversations. They can't actually tell us like, oh, I understand it, because they will never understand it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Now, it's definitely been interesting seeing white people's response to everything. Because I was out the other day at a march, and I've never seen that many white people at a march for Black issues ever. And I've been, active for a while, and so it was very interesting. So I'm definitely kind of looking and seeing, what comes out of it and how long the solidarity lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've seen like solidarities like this before, and then after like a year gone, Plus, I think everybody also might just want to go out. They've been closed so much in with Corona. It's just like, oh, I have a chance to go out and walk in the sun,
Exactly.
We will see. We will see. Even me, I'm very skeptical, but the whole world has come out. So it's just sad, like the whole world had to come out for like 4 people, man. Like that alone just shows you like there's like still a long way to go. Like it's not gonna end like tomorrow or next year.
Yeah,
If
that's
the
true.
whole world, for 4 people to be arrested, shit. Yeah, it was like, for me, that fucked up part.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, so in terms of looking at hip hop Nairobi, so can you kind of talk about growing up in the Nairobi hip hop scene? Like, how would you, for someone who doesn't really know a lot about hip hop in Nairobi, how would you describe Nairobi hip hop? And are there differences regionally in Kenya, like between, Nairobi versus Mombasa? And so could you kind of talk about Kenyan hip hop?
Yeah, like I think from when it comes to Kenyan hip hop, I'm like the 3rd or 4th generation of Kenyan hip hop. So there was like the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and we're like the 4th. And I'd say the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. The 1st, the 2nd were really like conscious rap. It was like more revolutionary rap, like Koflani. There was Poxy Pressure. It was a different kind of rap. It was always like about the hustle. It's like, it was kind of like reggae hip hop, because as we grow, all of us here listening to reggae, and reggae is always about like, being strong, survival, and that was the hip hop that they had. And then there was a generation that came that was a little bit after that they were like hip hop but was softer. It was not as hardcore, you know. There was like starting to become like flashy and a little bit low key, but still like has the element of conscious rap. But just the beats were becoming more commercial and they were getting more radio airplay. Then the third was very like they went ratchet, like Kenyan hip hop just went ratchet, and they gave birth to a style called genge. So there was like Ishaka, there was another. They gave birth to a style called kapuka, and kapuka gave birth to a style called genge. And now after genge, now it was us, which for us, I don't know. I didn't want to be in any category. So I didn't choose to do one style of music. I was always experimenting different sounds. I'll do jazz, I'll do R&B, which was not very common. Then it was just like if you're a rapper, you just rap. So our generation, I would say what they did is more like we really commercialized hip hop, like we took it now to the boardrooms, because the other generation of hip hop didn't really get into like corporate, because we were always like put like, oh, those are thugs, those are like drug dealers or whatever. But then the slang, the slang shang really picked up, and everybody, now the corporate wanted to start advertising using shang, because that's the only way you could reach the young people from the main societies that they needed to push their products. Being now shang now getting like being used in adverts, in commercial TV and news, it even made hip hop bigger now, because now a bigger audience was curious. What is this slang? Why is it like such a thing now? And it was like kind of exotic at our time, and it went really well. But compared to Mombasa, I always say most Mombasa hip hop artists are very conscious, are like the Tanzania ones. They're super conscious. All radio stations are in Nairobi, so it's always hard for them to like make it to radios, you know, like. But there's so many dope MCs that I've met there through my foundation programs. And it's just like we don't have a music system that works, you know? Like, it's not like in LA and somebody's in Philly, but you could still all be superstars from your different towns. Here you have to be in the cup. You know, if you're not in Nairobi, there's like 90% chances you will not blow up. And that's tough for people who can't actually live in Nairobi, because they're not born here, they don't have family members, they don't need to come here. So that's the challenge with all the smaller cities, like in Kenya. So if you're not in Nairobi, and now when you come to Nairobi, you have like 10,000 artists, and it becomes even harder now.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I saw that you said that if you feel like if you had not been born in Kibera, you probably wouldn't be an MC. Why do you feel that way?
Because I didn't want to be a rapper. You know, it was not like anything that ever crossed my mind ever. But yeah, so if I was born in a different neighborhood, I would have gone a different course. I would not like rap would not have been an option. But growing this side, when I lost my parents, that was like my place for pain. That was like my place of like letting out, you know. And I just started writing as letting out. I started as a spoken word artist actually, and then people didn't pay that much attention to spoken word artists. Or people will just clap, and then you're like, okay, what the fuck? You know, so, okay, this is how it is. Then I switched to rap, you know, and it was always pain. I was like a very angry rapper. Like in the beginning of like my first 3 years, it was like very angry until like I actually started making money and starting like buying my own stuff and being like a little bit at peace. But before that, it was just anger. So it was never even a thing that I was like, oh, it could actually work. I was just like, this is how I feel, and it helps me chill. So I'm just gonna let it out through music.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely think that connection between hip hop and struggle is real. Um, but I think, had you also, I feel like your talent is also was also helpful because, a lot of people may write stuff down and like I have a journal, but I'm not
Yeah.
talented. So that journal, nobody's gonna like buy my music if I start rapping what's in my journal. So I think having the ability to also write bars
Mm.
helped a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's definitely. And so then I understand kind of coming out of Kibera why, even why police brutality, poverty, corruption would be something that is important. But what kind of made you turn to talk about the plight of refugees in Kenya?
So I was actually invited to go perform at the camps for World Refugee Day,
Mm.
and when I was there, I always believe everywhere I've gone, there's always been artists. So I just asked like, hey, is there any artist here like who can like cut and raise and we can see what they're like doing here? And first they said there wasn't any artist. Then the second person told me like, yeah, there's some artists. And there was like 5 artists. And they went on stage and I asked them like, how do they record? Like, if they wanted to record, where do they go? They're like, we don't record. There's no
Mm.
studio. We just write and record ourselves with our phones and just for fun, and there were so many good artists. And after that, I told like the organization that had invited me then, it was like a small organization, like, yo, we need to do something. Like, I'm a person who like 100% like eats on my music. Like these people might not even need to be in this camp. If they're actually talented, they can live and go live a life that they want if they're given that opportunity to record music and push it and shoot videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were in agreement, and we started with like 6 artists, but they didn't have enough funding, so I had to like pitch to the UNHCR and tell them like, oh, we did this pilot with 6 artists, and this is what we got it out, and this is what we're trying to achieve with this artist. Because for me, the musical program was mostly also about therapy, because when I was talking to a person to person, most of the kids, they reminded me of me, because it was both of them are coming from war areas and very poor. People have lost their parents, and the only way they vent through like music. Like their first songs were about like going back home and killing people. It was crazy, you know. And it was good. It was so good for me to see them that angry and get it out on a song and not in a real person's life, not like actually kill someone. And over the time, I did the program for 4 years. By the time we were doing the album, it was mostly love songs. Like they were on a love song level, and now they were talking about things that they want. They want Ferrari too. They want to get married. They want to have a car. It was now they started thinking about real, like, society success. And before it was just like, I want to go back to and kill people. And they killed my mom. They killed my dad. And for me, that was the only thing that I actually loved about the program than even putting the album out. It was just like they healed. And now they had like wants and needs that were actually going to make them better people. And that was the best win for me in the whole program. And they were amazing artists. So just the storyline and how we related and how they reminded me of me was just like, and the camp is something else. Imagine now people are complaining about a curfew of what? We've had this curfew from maybe March or something. The camp, there's a curfew every day.
Wow.
It's like every day from 6 p.m. you can't be out all their life. And you're talking about 100,000 people. It's not like 10 people. So that only should tell humans, like, now imagine somebody living like this for the rest of their life. For 20 years, they live like this. And you can't even live like this for 1 month. People are already going zombies.
Yeah.
people would think about the other people like that, the solutions would be way easier. Like they complicate so many things. People complicate so many things. Just they don't want to feel, they don't want to think like the other people because they're not there. So they're just like, I can never be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's definitely
So,
interesting. It's like the imagery, the things that the videos that you recorded and kind of even centering the voices of a population that, from what I can think of, never really gets centered in hip hop music. I mean, I know Tanzania also has a significant refugee population, but they're so far from Dar es Salaam, where most of the rappers are, that there's like where most of, a lot of the people are. So it's almost like they're there, but you never see them. You never see the refugee camps. You never. So it's kind of like there's a huge disconnect. So I think kind of bringing that.
It's the same here. Like there, for you to go there, you have to fly 3 hours.
Oh wow!
Who's gonna fly? It's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the border of like Tanzania, in the middle of nowhere. If you watch the video last shot, you will actually see when the drone goes up and you just see the tents, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Like you can't even drive there unless like it's a big and taking like stuff. But you also need a pass to be there. So you can't just say like, oh, I'm just gonna go. No, you have to get like a special pass from the UN or the government. So people don't even think about it. Like, nobody I know becomes, so it's not my problem,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then one of the other issues is, one of the things I wanted to talk about is language. So I was reading, language is a huge topic, I think, in a lot of different, I know in Tanzania, there's a divide between Swahili artists, speaking artists, and increasingly the English artists, speaking artists. And so I read that you feel like Kenyan rappers who rap in English do it for commercial purposes. So I could kind of bring out the Tanzanian in me and point out that Kenyan Swahili may not be as strong. So is it really that, or is it that some of them really aren't that fluent? Because to rap in Swahili, you really have to speak it well. So like, what role do you, like, what are your views on kind of language in Kenyan hip hop? Is it, do you feel like that some of that may be that they're not as fluent in it, or I don't know.
I think personally, as an African person, I mean so much pride in my language that even if I could rap in my tribal language, which is Luo, I would do it for the rest of my life. Like I would never want to be thinking in English. And when I see like African artists, like in general, not only in Kenya, like rapping in English is just like I always feel like this is not you. Like I don't care how dope you sound in English, even if you grew up in the States, but you actually don't know your language. Like you don't know, you can't create bars with your language. And like that means, because anytime you think, like when I'm thinking, I have to think in my mother tongue first. If I jump in English, it's never authentic. That's not me thinking. That's like my I would say brainwashed new society kid of myself. And I'm very person who like is strong in culture. So I always have loved that Tanzanian artists have rapped in Swahili. I've loved that any person who, here we don't speak Swahili, but we created our own language, which is called Sheng. I like, because you can't get a dictionary about it. It changes every day. And it's just the best thing that has ever happened to Kenyan, I think, youth, that we actually have a language that if you are in a certain age, you can't understand what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you're Kenyan or you're coming from where. But we've commercialized it so much that you can listen to it, because the advantage of Kenya is that you can do many sounds. That's what I think like sometimes limit Tanzanian artists is like they only have bongo. They never try to do something out of bongo. I don't see many artists trying there. It's always just bongo hip hop. But Kenya, like today I will do jazz album. Tomorrow I will do like crazy Kenyan sound. Then today I'm trapping. I'm doing another trap album. Tomorrow I'm doing like a boom bap album. And people just eat anything we give them. We don't have a sound, which has been the best that's happened to us. We don't have like, oh, this is a Kenyan sound. No. We do, and we have rock artists here. And you're like, what? We have rock artists?
Yeah.
Country artists. Because it's just free like that. And that's why even Nigerians, they have to be big in Kenya before they actually get big out.
I noticed that, with Tanzanian hip hop, it is very, like, the beats are, a lot of them are like very boom bop beats. And there's not a lot of experimentation, even with like local Tanzanian music. Like, there's not a lot of experimentation with that. It's very kind of like, if anything other, it's like, some people are quick to say that's not hip hop because it doesn't have a hip hop beat or whatever.
And that has really like made the hip hop hard to grow, because Tanzania used to lead actually in hip hop in East Africa. Used to lead for many years, not like even once. The Professor J era, like we couldn't get them, and so the sound that was in Kenya then was called Gengen. It was more commercial and clubby, yet the other side was very conscious, and because of people party here a lot, this one picked quicker, and it started traveling more than the conscious rap, because conscious rap was constant about suffering, problem. And people wanted something like, I want to get drunk, I want to dance, I want to forget about these problems. So the Kenyan one worked. And this is how, like, since then, like since Professor J, the hip hop just went as it was going down. They had like 1 or 2 good artists per year, yet they used to have like 10, and all the artists are rappers and they're big and the content is legit, but the sound from then until today is the same.
Oh, okay. I gotta switch topics because I'm like, I know some of my people are gonna be like, you should have said this and you should have said so. I'm just gonna like move, because I definitely think that the language issue is important. And as you're kind of talking about your reason, it reminds me so much of Ngugi wa Thiong'o and the debate he had with Chinua Achebe about literature. And Ngugi was very much for writing in African languages for African audiences, while Achebe was all about writing in English for international audiences. And so, obviously in the end, both of them became legends. But there is something to say about rapping in a language that your people can understand. Now, what about the other languages? And are there rappers who rap in like Kikuyu or Luya or Luo? Are there rappers who do that in Kenya?
Yeah, I've done songs in Luo personally. I know like a number of rappers who rap in Luo, rap in Kikuyu, rap in Luya, and I always say, like, you just need to go commercial with one track and that's it. People will buy it. People will find out, because we know people here who listen to like Spanish music and we don't speak Spanish,
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but still enjoy. Congolese music is legendary here. Is rumba, is like big, and Lingala, and we don't speak Lingala. When the music is musical, it goes. It doesn't matter. Because I've performed in Slovakia, like people don't even speak English there, leave alone Sheng. I performed in Germany like so many times. People there don't speak English either or Swahili, and for some reason I still get gigs in those places. Just like, I want you to perform in this festival. It's because when people can relate to music, that's all it's needed. And we have that advantage that I could do a chorus in English and that's it. Like, and Sheng has a lot of English words like corrupted So people might get an idea of the song easily and just vibe. And in the West, what I realized, especially in Europe, it excites them to want to know, like, what is this language and what does it mean? It's very different from the US, where US I always feel like they're very close to outside culture, like it's just about us. And I've never targeted US as a market for myself. I've performed in LA once, but it has never, even during when I'm doing my distribution, if I'm like, don't, please, US is not my target market. Because even Afro pop, it took, even until now, it hasn't actually broken into the US, but is huge in Europe. Like, you go to Finland, any of those crazy countries, there's people listening to Afro pop. And me doing like Swahili and I'd say Kenyan or East African style of music and sound is because I also want the world to know, like, Africa is not Afropop. Like, I don't do Afropop. I was performing in London, and remember one day when then somebody asked me, look, so where's your drums? And I'm like, bro, all of us are not drums. I'm Jay-Z. You see Jay-Z wears his drums when he comes here. You know, I have my DJ, because they have this mentality, like, if you say you're an artist, by default you're like a drummer or some crazy dancer on a costume, you know. And for me, even my next project that is coming, that I've been working on for 2 years, which I work with a producer from Ghana, a German producer, another artist from Senegal, and I want to show people there's sound that is not, you can't say this is an African sound. We have East African, we have South African, which is very different. Then we have the West Africa, which is Afropop. We have another one here in Sudan, which is very different. But people never get to explore those stuff, especially hip hop artists. And that's what I've done in my next record, is I want people to understand that there's another sound this side. That need to get us the same attention. So if we keep rapping like in English and changing our R&B songs to English, it's like we're actually killing the original culture. And this is why even Nigeria blew up. Because they just went back to roots and everybody was doing the same thing. Like, let's push it. But here we were busy trying Americans, you know, like trapping and doing all this crazy stuff. And people are just like, you know, would I rather listen to a trapper from Kenya or listen to Migos if I was to choose? You know, I would listen to Migos because that's them, the original trap, as we are just imitating. So when somebody comes here to look for an artist to listen to, it's like, I really need to listen to like African rap, or I like Kenyan hip hop. You have to look for Swahili or Sheng rappers.
And even, I think a lot of people don't realize, I know, you know, in the hip hop and Africa class that we have, a lot of students don't realize how deep hip hop is in Africa, but they also don't realize the differences. Like, you go, you know, from Kenya to South Africa to Ghana to Senegal, like, the hip hop is local. I mean, you pull from your local environment, local languages, local, you know, whatever, dress, everything, the way the rappers kind of flow, all of that stuff. You know, there are some who would try to imitate what's happening outside, like in the US, but when you are looking at artists that are like pulling from their local customs and cultures and languages, it's, and I really do think, you know, you are one of the few artists in East Africa, specifically, you know, in Kenya, definitely, that is about kind of letting that, your local experience come through, rather than saying, oh, well, this is popular, let me do this. And like you said, if I want to hear Nicki Minaj, I'm going to hear Nicki Minaj. I don't want to hear, you know, I don't want to call any names, but certain female artists who are like, oh, I'm going to be the Tanzanian Nicki Minaj. It's like, no, there's already a Nicki. So
Yes, I think that is very important, and I've been trying to push people to even go back to like vernacular, which I think is very downplayed, because if you look at Bana actually sings in his mother tongue. He doesn't. That's what makes him different from Davido and Wizkid, like, because they sing in pidgin, like pidgin English. Bana sings in like his mother tongue, and it's super musical that I don't need to know what he's saying. I just vibe.
Yeah.
And people forget like those culture, like even now seeing with demonstration in the US, like where there's actually people playing drums, like real drums, and jumping in this African way, like gives people chills because they're not used to that. They're used to the African, I think, Black America, where it's rap and gangsters and hoes and whatever. And they forget like actually there's this like side of this African culture of music that you could just dance like 5 hours rounding a fire and you don't even feel it.
So let me ask this, because
so for me, even personally,
one of the things I want to say, sorry to interrupt, one of the things I wanted to ask is that when I'm just thinking about, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, you do have these movements of people speaking in local language. So in Kenya, it's Sheng and Swahili. Tanzania, it's Swahili. Uganda, you have the whole Luganda Flow movement with Babaluku and everyone. But in West Africa, it's normal for an art. Ooh. Okay, pause. Recording. Okay, so we're back, and so yeah, I was saying that in East Africa, it's definitely there's that kind of struggle, whereas in West Africa, it seems to be very normal for like a Ghanaian artist to rap in like 2-3 languages in one verse sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's never any, oh, you should rap in, because they're all, a lot of them are, it's just, I don't know, even when you were talking about Afro beats and Afro pop, where artists kind of, it's not a thing. So it's not a thing because no one is against people really kind of performing in local languages. Why do you think in East Africa it's such a divide between English versus the Swahili or Luganda?
I think because we are the most brainwashed, I would say, and also what these all countries have in common, these 3 countries, they're the British colony, and British pushed a lot of English. Everything was changed to English. Everything. Like we go to school in Kenya and only one subject is taught in Swahili, which is Swahili. And it should be the other way around. Like all subjects should be taught in Swahili except English. But yet we are here, every subject is taught in English except Swahili. So that's why I think even Sheng came in, because then there was like these street people who will go to school and drop out, and we can't figure out, because we don't hear Swahili that much, and it's very like the school Swahili and the Swahili you could talk in the street couldn't work out. And so we were mixing this word. So we were just, it's like this is our version of pidgin actually. Sheng was our version of pidgin, And I think that's what both these countries have in common, is like the way the British was like pushing is like low-key assimilation, like whatever I would say the French did in Congo, but the French were worse because everybody had to speak, forget their language probably, dress like them, look like them. They were more extreme. But with the British, it was just like you have to know English. And then there was this status that was created that if you don't speak English, you're dumb. Stupid. And I was like, it bothers me like until like 5 years ago is when I realized like speaking English is not a measure of intelligence. It's just a language like my mother tongue. It's like somebody's mother tongue.
Exactly.
Why would somebody's mother tongue be, for some reason, and this goes back to racism. This is like low-key a racist thing that if I can't speak good English, I'm stupid. Bro, I don't want to speak your language, actually. It's just like we're in a fucked world and I have to learn it to move around. But if we speak each other's languages, when you go to France, they force you to speak French. I went there and it was hard. They will not speak to you in English even when they know. When you go to Spain, Italy, they speak to you Italian. How come when they come here, we have to speak in English.
Yeah. And
But
we
this is,
love to prove
is
that we can speak English.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember I've done a BBC interview where I said I don't speak English, and they had to look for an interpreter. I just say I don't speak English, and I deliberately, because I was like, we need, everybody has, because you never see Cristiano Ronaldo speaking English, Messi speaking English, and people celebrate them. But when you see like a Kenyan marathon runner wins and try to speak broken English, and people make fun of him.
Yeah.
The guy just won a gold medal, broke a world record, but you're gonna turn him to a little thing because he can't speak English?
Yeah.
It really breaks my
Yeah. No, you're definitely, yeah. It's a deep issue in that whole mental slavery and colonization and all of that stuff. It's a big part of it. So you mentioned in terms of like, you know, what you're working on now. So I just want to kind of, I guess, close up with figuring out, you know, just kind of what's happening, how, well, I know we're gonna have your social media links and your website, but kind of what's coming up, what are you working on? Yeah.
So for now, I have a release on Monday, actually, next
Oh
Monday.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, but single I've been working on through the communities that have been doing the program, my feeding program, since COVID started. So it's more of like a soundtrack of and showing people actually what's happening in these communities that is not shown in the media. You know, in the media, all we see like people, 200 people of corona, 2 people of corona, but they don't show the lifestyle, the houses, whatever people are going through in the community, and why it's needed for every individual. Because also I feel like we've reached a place where people always just point hands that the government is not doing this, the government is not doing this. And some of this stuff that we don't need the government. With some of us are now very privileged, we can actually eat. And knowing that there was days that I couldn't eat, and now I have like, I can eat and have the rest, or I have a network that I could actually mobilize to feed people who are in that situation right now. And I'm gonna sit and point the government's hand like, oh, you're not doing your job. Let me play my part, even if I can't feed everyone, but I would have set to a certain level of people. Like right now, my goal is to feed 10,000 people, and I've reached to 500 people in the last like month. So it's a going on thing, and I wanted to show people why it's important for everybody to do it in their community, even if they can't do it with us. Like, it's very important. I get crazy DMs every day, and it's just like, you know, things started. I have a kid. I don't even have food, and it's always I don't have food. I don't have food. Like people here, it's just about food, and imagining like somebody going to bed with a kid without food, and you can spare like $1 to do something, is hurting, you know, and people don't understand that. So this is what this song is about. It's called Another Day. So that's coming out on Monday. Okay. But with the project I've been working on 2 years, was supposed to be actually out in April. Because of COVID, I've postponed it until like I'm sure of, because I put so much work in it, and it has so much about my culture, and it's one of the best thing I've ever wanted to do. Like, is the was to start music today. When that is out, I could be actually happy. Like I create my own blueprint of what I want, like the next generation of hip hop to follow, when it comes to content, when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to instrumentation, and just bridging the gap of the young and the old. Because there's always people like, oh, you're not my target market, or like, oh, I can't watch this song with my mom. And how can we get to a place where you can actually watch something with your mom, and both of you enjoy? Like, we don't always have to twerk, and we don't always have to be so serious, but we can meet. We still live with our parents, we still live with the elderly. It can't be like, oh, mom is going to bed, now I can watch this. Or your mom be like, oh, turn that off. Not good for me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, now I'm eyeing like August with it, if everything like chills down. and see how it goes. But it's one of my best, I think, piece of work I've worked on.
Okay. Well, I'm sure folks follow you on social media. They'll be able to kind of keep up with what's happening and what. Yeah, so like I said, we'll have your links and everything, so people can kind of just check the notes, the show notes, and they'll be able to have the links. So I definitely wanted to, thank you for coming on, because this has been, a really great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vako za kugrill mamacita ego shit una negotiate na indo ile time na kuwa mina we to negotiate window king sina sling zako bling niki blink una go missing check it ring nani big nina gang tuki bang muna go missing